But I thought we were having fun. In my head. Hey everybody, welcome to In My Head. Two quick things. Number one, I'm from the United States of America, so the things I say here, if you're from a different culture, a different country, they may not apply equally to you. Number two, I am not a licensed professional, and that includes not being a lawyer. Okay, I get it. No means no, and yes means yes. But that doesn't explain all the situations that I've been in. I still don't understand consent. Why do I sometimes say or do the opposite? Well, this week we've been talking all about boundaries and consent, and on In My Head, I give my take on different mental health topics, so let's discuss boundaries and consent today. I've mentioned a few times this week that there are gray areas to all of this stuff, so that's what I want to dig into. One thing that I really didn't get into this week is misreading biological cues. You know, we may experience sweating, we may see things like erect nipples or erect erogenous zones, and we have this thinking that that must mean that somebody's turned on, but that's not always going to be the case. So just because you see that somebody looks like they're experiencing pleasure, that doesn't mean that they really are. Just think about goosebumps. You can get goosebumps for all kinds of different reasons. It doesn't mean that you're excited about something. And with that one out of the way, let's get into a really big one that's going to kind of filter into all the rest that I'm going to be talking about this video. That is speed. Now, I want to start with talking about how speed, especially when you're going really, really fast, can make you miss important cues both within yourself and from your partner. Sometimes we get caught up in that flow of the moment and we don't pay attention to what we're experiencing inside. I've mentioned this a few times this week. We don't look into what we're feeling. And if we're caught up in that flow and we're missing how we're feeling, we can't communicate how we're feeling to our partner, especially if we're not actually enjoying something. The obvious solution to this then is to take things slowly. Don't always jump right into things and go as fast as you can. That's not a great way to have healthy intimacy with somebody, and it's a good way to miss the cues that you're going to need to be able to consent to someone. Remember that both people in this interaction can control how fast that it goes, so you have the ability to slow things down if you feel like you're not picking up on the cues, whether that be from your partner or your internal emotional cues that you need to. Related to this, especially when it comes to experiencing what we're feeling inside, if you have intoxicating substances in the mix, if you're altering your state of mind while you're in the middle of some kind of intimate encounter, you're going to have a hard time picking up on your emotional cues, especially when it comes to things that slow our reaction time or make us more impulsive. We may move into things faster than we have the opportunity to evaluate and interpret the way that we're experiencing them emotionally inside. When we become intimate with somebody, there's also this emotional cascade that happens, and we kind of like tumble through emotions as the intimate encounter continues on. Sometimes we get really excited and we become confident, and then we want to move things faster. Other times we become a little bit hesitant and frightened, we become less confident, and we want to slow things down. But that changes as time goes on and as we continue to interact with our partner. One person may become confident and then start to move things faster, and then that scares the other partner and they start to slow things down and become less confident. The confident person is moving so fast that they're missing cues, and the less confident person is becoming so hesitant that they don't voice themselves. The mismatch in this cascading of emotions is what makes things a little bit hard when it comes to consent. Again, slowing things down may help here. Let me ask you a question. What does it mean if somebody touches your shoulder from behind? Some people are going to see that as really intimate and even sexy. Other people are going to see that as a total creep move and they're going to want to get away from that person. Everybody's going to have their own interpretation of what different actions mean. And some of this just may have to do with the different experiences that we've gone through in life. For somebody, maybe they've had a good intimate experience with somebody who touched their shoulder. Somebody else maybe was sexually assaulted when somebody touched their shoulder. This mismatch in the different meanings that we ascribe to the actions that are going on between us can make one person want to move faster and think that it's appropriate to move faster, and somebody else want to slow down and think it's better to slow down. This misinterpretation of things is what makes consent difficult, and this is why it's always important to directly communicate and always be in touch with our emotions as we go through an intimate experience. There's something else that gets in the way of us always being in touch with our emotions, and that is norms. Social norms tell us how to behave in certain situations, and we may want to go to norms because we're so uncomfortable and we don't know what to do. We don't like that uncertainty of trying to figure out what to do, so we automatically kind of go to a norm because that's how we've been told that this is how this should look and this is how we should behave. What happens, though, is we can get caught up in trying to perform a certain way, or maybe trying to please our partner and making sure that everything is good for them, but we start to overlook how we're feeling inside. If you're only putting your partner's feelings at the number one slot, if it's not equal together, then you're going to run into problems with consent. And the same goes for if you're not at that equal level and you're putting your partner below you. Don't worry about doing something the right way. Don't worry about trying to perform and be the best or whatever it is that you have in your head. All of that's really not important. I know sometimes it feels good to have a guideline, but what ultimately matters in an intimate situation with somebody is that you're both in touch with how you're feeling and you're communicating it. This is not the time for narcissism or people pleasing. How am I doing? What do you want me to do? So am I better than your past lovers? Pretty impressive, huh? I'll say it again, intimacy is weird. We're putting ourselves in a vulnerable place where we have to express these emotions that sometimes we keep inside because they're a little bit scary. Consent is something that we use to help manage this experience, but it's not perfect and there are gray areas. The boundaries are not so clear-cut all the time. But if we can get in tune with how our partner is feeling, get in tune with how we're feeling, communicate with each other, and regulate the speed at which we're doing things, using consent as a tool to make sure that we're okay, then that's when the magic happens and we start to have an amazing intimate experience with our partners. I want to thank my patrons for supporting me and doing content like this and helping me to humanize mental health. If you'd like to become a patron yourself, head on over there. I'm a patron of other people because I know how much work it takes to make things like this. If you like learning about mental health, you like thinking about these things, why not go over to youtube.com/RyanLiberty, hit subscribe. Now please help me explore this further. I'm sure there are things that I missed. What are some other areas that are a little bit gray when it comes to consent and boundaries? We've all had different experiences. I'd love to hear about a situation that you're confused about. Please leave that down in the comments. We can learn from each other, discuss it, and remember, I moderate comments. Thank you everybody for joining me here on In My Head.
We are having fun. I just have to pee.